Hey guys, what's going on? Welcome to another episode of If You Have to Pick Three. I'm Matt.
And I'm Zach.
We pick top threes in particular lists, and then we fight out for a final top three, even though it's normally not a fight. It's normally an exact compromise. But we still come up with a final top three list regardless. This time, this episode is a little unexpected. The reason I say this is because off the heels of the announcements of who is actually getting into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame this year, a name popped up on the list that was kind of like out of left field. Like somebody just opened up the bullpen gate and let this person in.
It might be the most pleasant surprise that the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame has ever done.
If you haven't heard, that individual is Randy Rhoads.
That's right.
So
receiving a Musical Excellence Award.
While most people would probably argue that Iron Maiden got the shaft again, I think this makes up for it.
I would also argue that if you'd like to really hear our thoughts about Iron Maiden, whether or not they should be in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, you should listen to a past episode of If You Have to Pick Three, where we go into more debate about the 2021 class inductees. But I think when we were recording that episode, I don't even think either of us had any idea that Randy Rhoads was even being discussed to be inducted. In fact, I remember a while back when we did the initial episode where we named the artists who should be inducted into the Hall of Fame who have yet to be. You had named Ozzy Osbourne with also kind of the hope that that would mean Randy Rhoads would get inducted. And I kind of laughed at you because it's not like Ozzy. So, but this is even better because nothing against Ozzy, but now Randy is getting inducted on his own accord. And if you ask any guitar player, any fan of rock music, there really is no guitarist more deserving than Randy.
It's like I had a crystal ball.
Yeah, okay, I guess so. But like his career was tragically cut short when he died in a plane crash. But within such a short time frame, he helped Ozzy Osbourne produce some of the most impactful riffs and songs in heavy metal music. And I think even Ozzy would be the first to admit that without Randy Rhoads, Ozzy would still be the former Black Sabbath singer. So with that in mind, we decided to determine Randy Rhoads' three best songs, not named Crazy Train, because there's no denying how classic and iconic that riff is. Would you not agree, Matt?
I would agree. It's also not one of my favorite Ozzy songs, so you can't go by that with me.
Is it? Well, hold on. Is it because it's just so overplayed?
There's so many better songs. Crazy Train, yeah, we all know it. Some of us love it. I guess maybe because it's overplayed, but it's also too cliche, and it's, I don't know, it's just not one of my favorites from Ozzy.
I see what I did there. It's easy to kind of forget how great the song is just because it is overplayed. It's played in stadiums. It's played at every single thing. But that riff, you gotta admit how simple yet technical it is.
Yeah, I can admit that. But after hearing it after every kickoff in the NFL, I'm kind of done.
That's fair. Well, guess what? You're going to have a chance to share which songs from Randy Rhoads' amazing catalog are better than Crazy Train in a minute. But first, a really, really special shout out. Lucky 13 Beard Co. made to order beard oils and balms right in our backyard.
And also, what's not better than, small batch made beer bombs and oils, but getting 10% off. If you haven't tried any of these products ever, I really think you should give it a try. You always wake up, one day and your beard feels like extra rough and you do what you can to try to get it manageable. And some days you're like, I just don't want to, go through that trouble. Just throw a little beard oil in it and you're fine. Comes out silky smooth, smelling great. Amazing scents, tobacco, vanilla, still my favorite. Working on new scents all the time. He actually just put out one that smells like Fruit Loops, and they put out another one that smells like a creamsicle. So if you're into that type of stuff.
I am, for sure. And that one I can't wait to try.
Give yourself a little bit of love, a little TLC, especially with all that we've gone through this past year. It's time for some TLC. 10% off. Go to etsy.com/shop/Lucky13, the number, Beard Co. Put in the code EFP10 at checkout and get 10% off your order today.
Again, that code EFP10, receive 10% off. You can't beat that. So now, Matt, you had some big words about there being better songs that Randy Rhoads contributed than Crazy Train. I'll let you go ahead and go first and share your three.
All right. I guess, since I'm swinging such a big stick here, let's go ahead. And I don't know what's with the baseball puns tonight. I really don't. But anyway.
It's because Crazy Train's played on every sporting event. I get it.
All right. We'll go with that. My first song is actually one of, I want to say, the least known songs, or one of the lesser known songs, let's say that he was a part of. It's actually the title track to probably one of my favorite Ozzy albums, and Diary of a Madman. The song is absolutely haunting, and it really gives this album like a proper send-off. It's kind of almost like the ending song in a movie where you're in like a giant castle, like the vampire's been slain, and they kind of, are playing like the outro music. It's time to leave. But this song clocks in at 6 minutes long, and the dynamics of Randy's playing just gives such a haunting feel to this song. The riff work is absolutely incredible, and it just fits so perfectly with not only my vision of the album to this song. And I can't believe this song wasn't much bigger, to be completely honest. But I love everything that Randy did on Diary of a Madman. So that's number one. Number two, I don't know.
But what's your number two pick? Oh, I get it.
What I noticed about this song, and I've heard this song countless amounts of times, but listening to it in the context of trying to put together Randy Rhoads' best songs, I realized something here. The entire song is really based off of the feel of Randy Rhoads. The bass and the drums are relatively simple, and Randy is doing all the heavy lifting on here, and it sounds incredible. Randy absolutely rips on this song. That's really all I can say about this one. And actual fun fact on it, if you go to the 40th anniversary of Blizzard of Oz, listen to an outtake on there called, I believe it's RR, or it's an outtake, and it's Randy soloing. If you've never listened to Randy in the context of just listening to him for his guitar prowess, rather, you're a fan of Oz, you listen to the songs, it all works really well, and they're awesome songs, but you never sat down and actually appreciated Randy for his guitar playing. Listen to this outtake. It is a really, really awesome solo that he plays on here, and I can't believe that this wasn't like a hidden track or even like an interlude, kind of like what Metallica did with Anesthesia, Pulling Teeth, and what Cliff Burton played, kind of like just like an interlude solo to the album for, no reason whatsoever. Just it's there because it's awesome. This should have been there, in my opinion. So a little bonus on number two, I don't know. And number three, if this isn't on your list, Zach, you did it wrong. And anybody who's listened to Randy Rhoads ever and doesn't consider this to be one of his three best songs, you did it wrong. If you don't like the song, your opinion is wrong. It's Mr. Crowley.
It's a classic.
It is. It's absolutely classic. If you want to hear Randy at the height of his playing, listen to the solo on Mr. Crowley. Just the entire song, the feeling, and what actually is very subtle and nuanced throughout all of his playing is his use of effects, especially in that little outtake solo that I just mentioned. His use of guitar effects, you would think that it's very simple. It's actually quite complex, and listening to that solo kind of prepared me to listen again in a different way. And Mr. Crowley and his solo work on here and his use of guitar effects, while it fits perfectly in what they're doing and you don't really notice it, but there is so much that is going on with his playing, and it's just amazing what he's managed to put together in such a short catalog of work. Obviously because his life and career was cut short, but for everything that he was able to accomplish, and for us to be talking about him in such a short period of time, it's incredible. So my three are Diary of a Madman, I Don't Know, and Mr. Crowley. What say you, Mr. Zach?
Let me just state, Mr. Crowley will definitely be in the final three. I am not including it in my three, mainly because I also wanted just an excuse to talk about some songs that don't always get some love. Because I would actually argue that Diary of a Madman is a classic in Ozzy's catalog, and the only reason why they don't perform it live anymore is because Ozzy can't really hit those notes. Yeah. So here's my three, and I should state that I did not necessarily intend for my three to be solely off of the album Diary of a Madman. It just so happens to be off the album. And I would actually even argue that while Blizzard of Oz gets a lot of love and attention because it has so many big hits, Diary of a Madman, the album, to me is where Ozzy and Randy and the band really got into a groove and really became a tight unit. So with that in mind, first song, Over the Mountain. Such a fun, bombastic, vibrant metal hard rock song with just some great riffage, great solos. And I also always loved with that song how the bridge or the intro to his solo is technically actually the riff, but in a different pace of the Black Sabbath song. Do 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 do. And what's funny, apparently Ozzy has said that when they were writing that or recording it, he started to do that riff, and Ozzy was like, "Oh, you're playing Black Sabbath?" And he was like, "What?" He didn't even realize that he was playing that riff. But what's even more unique is that even though it's technically the same notes and maybe even the same pattern, it just shows how talented he is. He adds his own flavor to it, makes it his own. And for a song that, you know, the Black Sabbath is so dark and eerie, he brings it almost like joy to the riff. I think it just speaks volumes to how incredible of a songwriter he was, not just as a player, but a songwriter. So Over the Mountain, my first pick. Second pick is a song that I honestly think should be bigger. And if I was to be a pro wrestler, this would be my wrestling entrance theme. I'm talking about the song Believer. It's just got a really cool, like, it starts off a slow, like, and then the way that he kind of just gets into the rhythm and the groove during the verses, it's chugging and it's still at a steady pace, but it's got like almost like a tribal feel, his playing on this song. And it just makes it a really badass song and a great solo. Like I said, a song that really doesn't get enough love or credit. So Believer. Continuing on the theme of songs that don't get enough attention or credit, and also off of Diary of a Madman, is a song that there's no way Ozzy could perform it anymore just because of the high-pitched voice, but also just the tempo and everything. The song S.A.T.o. I just feel like it's just it would have been so great to see them perform it live. It's got so much cool energy, and it's got like a great rhythm to it. It kind of goes in certain directions. You can just tell that they just had so much fun jamming this song that still just sounds heavy and just groovy. Like Blizzard of Oz, I feel like is very much a hard rock album, but songs like S.A.T.o, it's like, no, that is metal. That is such a great 80s metal song. And you don't really hear it that often anymore. I guess you can call it a deep cut, but I wish it kind of, you know, could get more attention. So S.A.T.o. So to recap, Over the Mountain, Believer, and S.A.T.o. Those are the three best songs by Randy Rhoads, in my opinion. With that said, Matt, you alluded that, you know, I love to make compromises. Well, fine. Yep. Here is a famous Zach compromise. Diary of a Madman.
Okay.
Over the Mountain. And Mr. Crowley. Because Mr. Crowley really is such a perfect song. And Diary of a Madman just showed how technical Randy was without necessarily being flashy. Because I think that's another thing that made Randy Rhoads so special. He was beyond skilled. He added the classical element to the heavy rock guitar playing that even I think we love Eddie Van Halen. Don't get us wrong. We've talked about Eddie Van Halen in length in many different episodes. But Randy, I mean, deep down, he was a classical guitarist who just so happened to hook up with rock dudes, both in past bands like Quiet Riot. In fact, there's even the rumor that he was going to quit Ozzy's band shortly after touring with Diary of a Madman to go back to teaching classical music and to play classical guitar.
And just to kind of go on that a little bit, I would honestly compare Diary of a Madman to No More Tears. And you can hear the like we talked about, the technicality, but also, and this is something that I don't really like with a lot of Zakk Wylde playing. Zakk is a great guitar player. Everything Absolutely. That he's done, Black Label, and Ozzy's band, you know, the Zakk Sabbath stuff that he does. But when he starts getting into like the light pieces, it still doesn't have that feeling like a Diary of a Madman. And just the dynamic alone in Randy's playing shows that he was somebody who had touch. You know, it's like that perfect, and another sports analogy, it's like that perfect pass that just floats just like a teardrop into a receiver's hands. Like it's just that ever slight touch and not ripping it at 90 miles an hour when it's not needed. You know when to back off, you know when you have to go full force. And Randy here on Diary had just that touch. But No More Tears, love the song, one of my favorites in the Zakk Wylde era, but the touch isn't there. It's still Zakk playing Zakk, and you just know Zakk's playing. He doesn't have a very light touch. Granted, he does all the acoustic stuff, but it's still Zakk digging in with all of his might and playing, while Randy here kind of offers that step back and that nice, open, airy, what makes it haunting feeling on this song.
You talk about that touch, and I think it's telling when Zakk Wylde talks about when he auditioned to join Ozzy's band. Ozzy and management made it very clear. It's like, listen, if I wanted someone like Malmsteen who just shreds like no one's business, I'll get him. I don't need just a crazy shredder. And that, I think, is telling of how Randy didn't just shred for the sake of shredding. Every note in his playing had a purpose. It served a role in the solo. It wasn't just like you can even the solo to Mr. Crowley, you can hum the solo. You can sing out that mentally. It's not just crazy for the sake of being crazy. It's so well thought out. And I think there's a reason why it's kind of like I use the analogy of like James Bond, where maybe Pierce Brosnan is the Bond that you grew up with, but there's no denying that Sean Connery is the best Bond. Just like how maybe Zakk Wylde is the Ozzy guitarist that you grew up with, but there's no denying that Randy is the ultimate Ozzy guitarist. And I think even anyone who plays in Ozzy's band would be the first to admit that, and there's a reason for that. And I think Diary of a Madman, Mr. Crawley, and Over the Mountain are the best examples of that. So if you're okay with this compromise, I would say those are the three best songs from Randy Rhoads.
Not to poke the bear at all, but I mean, I don't know, at least for me, if you ever listen to a guitar player carry a song, that's it. Like, I know.
I would argue it's even more so with Over the Mountain, though. And to me, I feel like, I don't know. I always thought I was a little bit more of the forgettable songs from his catalog. It's a great starter to Blizzard of Oz, but I feel like there's better songs that I don't know. I don't know exactly why.
And there is, but yeah, I see what you did there.
Yeah,
but for me, though, it's not about the song at this point. It's about what are the three best Randy Rhoads songs. And if Randy can carry the song, that's him at his best. Because once again, just sitting back and trying to pick apart what's happening, the drums and the bass are really set far back in the mix on this one. And Ozzy and Randy, front and center, this is the song. And everything else is just like a secondary thought almost.
You see, I would argue, though, with Over the Mountain, that his guitar playing brought the best out of everyone who's on that record. It brought a different pace. It brought the best out of the drums. It was the ringleader to what made that song so special and was able to go from different types of styles. And to me, I think it's a better and more unique song than I Don't Know. So I stand by my offer, because you still got 2 out of the 3, by the way. Mr. Crowley, Diary of a Madman, Over the Mountain. Do we have a deal?
All right. Well, we got a deal. I see what you're saying. And I guess if he makes everybody else's playing better instead of him carrying the load, yeah, I guess that makes for a better song. So I guess that's the tiebreaker here. But
booyah.
For me, like I said, with I Don't Know, he just rips the entire song, and everybody else can just, even Ozzy to a certain extent, I Don't Know, could probably just, take a step back.
Yeah, but I think what made Randy so special was that most of the songs was never an overshadow moment. Like, he helped bring a band together, which for a solo artist, although you can make the argument that technically the album Blizzard of Oz was recorded under the pretense that it was supposed to be a band called Blizzard of Oz, depending on if you ask Bob Daisley or whoever else is involved in the record. We can probably do a whole episode about the drama involved in making those early Ozzy solo records, because I feel like it really is just so much dirt and music business related crap involved in it. But that also is a testament to how amazing Randy is, and that it kind of makes you forget about it. It's like, no, at least we can enjoy his playing and the songs that he helped create.
Agreed.
So, to wrap everything up, the final three. Over the Mountain off of the album Diary of a Madman. Diary of a Madman off of the album, you guessed it, Diary of a Madman. And Mr. Crowley off the album Blizzard of Oz. Those are, in our opinion, Randy Rhoads' best songs. I'm sure there's probably going to be some people who are like, well, what about the stuff he did at Quiet Riot? Well, if you can tell us some, let us know. But I think it's just a testament to how strong his material is with Ozzy. So now, Matt, before we go, I want to pose a question to you. In the past episode of Am I Missing Something, we talked about how the Grammys handled their tribute to Eddie Van Halen. And here we are, we're about to witness how the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame is going to pay tribute to Randy Rhoads at the 2021 ceremony. In your opinion, how would you like to see Randy honored? Who would you want to see either induct him and or maybe play a tribute to him in his place? I have some picks myself, but I'm curious what you think.
Well, I think there's one clear choice for who should induct him into the Hall of Fame, and it's Ozzy.
Oh, I thought you were going to say Sharon. I'm kidding. Yeah, Ozzy, that makes a lot of sense.
Ozzy's Randy's biggest person to pay tribute to him, and I remember it was a couple of years ago at this point, there was some long-lost tapes that were found with a Randy Rhoads solo on it or some material that had never come out before. And Ozzy sitting there in amazement watching this demo play and listening to Randy. You can still see the love for Randy in Ozzy's eyes as this is playing. So, there is no other person to induct him in my mind than Ozzy. For somebody to pay tribute to him, it would have to be somebody who plays like in a similar style to him. What would be very interesting, if you're looking for somebody to take on the technical prowess of Randy Rhoads and potentially nail him. I don't know if he's ever been associated with him at all. I doubt it. But John Petrucci of Dream Theater.
That could be cool.
If you're looking for somebody who's technical, he's like at the top of my list for people who can absolutely shred the technicality, the knowledge, and just the feel of a guitar. He's just right there.
So my pick, actually, while it would be great to hear Ozzy provide a speech, I would actually love either this person is the person that inducts them or performs in their honor. He's actually a musician. While at first you don't think he would even be a Randy Rhoads fan, but he's not only been very vocal about his love for Randy and how Randy was what inspired him to pick up the guitar, but he's even played on a covers album of Randy in honor of Randy Rhoads. He's even played with Ozzy at a one-off show, made an effort to make sure he knew how to play Mr. Crowley and other songs. I'm talking about Tom Morello. In fact, he did a really beautiful post where he showed the poster that he had in his room as a kid that made him want to pick up the guitar. I actually think it makes sense because he inducted Kiss into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and he was a big advocate to get Kiss into the Hall of Fame. He's got a lot of sway among the voting committee. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised if Tom Morello had something to do with Randy Rhoads getting inducted this year. So I feel like he would do such an incredible job at conveying what Randy did for the guitar. And whether it's, providing a speech or even performing in his honor. And honestly, I wouldn't mind if instead of having a single guitarist or a band perform it for Randy, I almost feel like it would be kind of better to have either Ozzy or Tom Morello or someone, doesn't matter who, provide a speech and then have family accept the award for him. And then have the famous end of the night Rock and Roll Hall of Fame jam with as many inductees as they want on stage, actually jamming on Crazy Train. I know it's overplayed and whatnot, but I actually think that could be a really special moment. Maybe it's even the Foo Fighters leading the jam. So you have it, Dave Grohl be the one singing. You know, you got the band as the core band playing behind him, and then they have a bunch of guitarists, whether it's Dave even soloing, Pat Smear or Chris Shiflett from Foo Fighters just soloing. You get Tom Morello up there. You get a bunch of guitarists up there. It would almost be in line with the classic While My Guitar Gently Weeps jam, where Tom Petty, Jeff Lynne, George Harrison's son was on stage singing that song when George got inducted, and then Prince came on and did his own solo for While My Guitar Gently Weeps, and it just was so iconic. Even thinking back then to also when Metallica got inducted, and they led a cover of Train Kept a Rollin' with Jimmy Page on stage, with Jeff Beck on stage. I feel like there's another guitarist or two. And then, Joe Perry was on stage. But then you just seeing all those legendary guitarists with their jaws on the floor watching Kirk Hammett just shred and just go insane. I feel like you can, again, have a very similar moment where with the Foo Fighters leading it and a bunch of guitarists and a bunch of musicians from the night just jamming to Crazy Train. That could be a really awesome way to end the night. I would be happy if that's how they pay tribute to Randy. And I think that's an even bigger testament to how special he is. But you know what? What do you all think? Do you agree with our picks? Do you think we are way off? Let us know on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, at Epic Footnote. Also subscribe to our YouTube channel for more videos and podcasts like this. And again, thank you to Lucky 13 Beard Co.
10% off of small batch made beard balms and oils right here from New Jersey. 10% off. Use the code EFP10 at checkout. Get 10% off your order. Etsy.com/shop/Lucky13, the number Beard Co.
Thanks so much for listening, and we hope you listen again real soon.
Maybe. I don't know.